Selamat sejahtera dan selamat sepupu. Today we have something special because it is about Mahathir's message to Anak Muda Melayu. Now, those of you out there who are in Malaysia, you probably know that Dr. Mahathir, our 4th and 7th Prime Minister, enjoys making a lot of statements about the state of politics in Malaysia. He wants to save Malaysia. He wants to protect the Malays. Now, normally I don't really think about all of this because mostly his statements are kind of like on the fringe right here, and whatever I say, I'm sure lots of people out there in the Warisan Pemikiran Tun Dr. Mahathir and Kami Sokong Tun Dr. Mahathir Facebook groups will say it 100 times over. But what he said today was really like, wow, fascinating. Because, I mean, hey, it's like a message from the grand old man himself to the young children of this generation. I mean, yeah, like Mahathir is obsessed with legacy. We saw his whole time capsule thing the other day, which is, by the way, just 1 of 5. The man has literally more than 5 capsules celebrating his legacy, kind of like the Horcruxes of Voldemort, whereby even if one day he dies, he will never truly die. But anyway, for someone who enjoys legacy so much, it's always shocking to me how effectively this guy tries to destroy it. This thing is originally in Malay, but I will translate it. Alright, Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad, Anak Muda Melayu, young Malay children. Young Malay children think that they can accept a non-Malay to rule and to own Malaysia. They say that non-Malays in Malaysia are also citizens of Malaysia. If Malays as citizens can have power in this country, non-Malays as citizens as well should have the right to have power just like the Malays. But the majority of non-Malays don't have the attitudes of citizens of this country like us. Oh wow, us. Like, what does that mean, Tun? Who is us? Especially, you know, like since you're partly Indian. Anyway, they identify themselves as coming from their original country. Their language, culture, and schooling, let alone political parties, are also associated with their original countries. Wow. I don't remember the last time I was singing the Chinese national anthem. I don't remember doing a massive stand up and salute when Xi Jinping came over to Malaysia. I barely think about China. I don't remember the last time I held up a Chinese flag and sang the Chinese national anthem. 我的国家. Oh, whoa. Let's not get cancelled. My Chinese is nowhere near as good as my Malay. Anyway, you say that their organizations, including political parties, don't accept us. What do you mean, Tun? Like, are you referring to DAP? Why don't you just come out and say it straight away? I mean, you surely can't be talking about MCA or anything like that, right? Well, Tun, I mean, like, did Syahredzan, Johan, and young Syefura, Othman just not exist? We are willing to accept and have accepted pendatang, migrants, from many countries that have broken all their relationships with their original countries. The language, culture, school, and their politics are no longer separate from ours.
Really? Then why are you associating us with pendatang and not saying we're not?
On the other hand, non-Malay citizens do not accept us Malay people as being a part of their bangsa, which is either nation or race, depending on how you look at it. Their organizations, including their political parties, do not accept us. Their discrimination towards us is clear in their companies and businesses. They are separate from us physically and mentally. Wow. Bro, what? I don't know, Tun, have you been listening too much to Muhammad Abdul Khalid a la discrimination of high degrees? Wow, incredible. We could see hints of this discrimination towards us when they dominated the economy. Surely, when they have full power as a government, their policies shall be meritocracy, which will benefit them. The new economic policy that contains affirmative action will be destroyed. What? That is fascinating. I don't know if that's called discrimination, bro. I mean, like, you said it yourself in your interview with me, that yeah, like, people just ended up using, like, non-Malay contractors.
The Malays used to build houses, wooden houses with a tap roof. And then the Chinese came. The Chinese were much more clever in building houses. And this I observed in my own house. You know, before my father asked a Malay contractor to extend the house, but when the Chinese contractor came, they do things much faster, much better, more solid construction. So the Malay cannot compete with the Chinese.
So I'm not sure what you're on about, but yeah. Meritocracy just means that you choose the best people to lead society. Like the people with the best skills, the best advantages, or whatever. Sure, you can talk about how like, oh, people who have rich backgrounds will be more advantaged. But if you think about it, like, if we're literally just looking for people who are skilled, who have the ability to articulate themselves, to make decisions, to do what is necessary in order to advance our society, that is how we end up finding the people to create a team that can actually end up advancing Malaysia. Point number 7. Because of this, therefore, the attitude of young Malay children who are willing to accept the possibility that Malaysia will be one day owned by non-Malays cannot be accepted. Wow. Bro. Is it even about owning this country when the majority of us literally just want to have a good life, not be given a bad deal, and not be screwed over and called barwa, bangsa, pendatang, quil haram, durian, or anything else that your incredibly creative but low IQ machais want to say? On the other hand, while we were independent for almost 70 years, the Malays, when they were in power, were willing to share with the non-Malays, even though they retained their identification with their original countries. And in that era, the success of the non-Malays was more than that of the Malays. The new economic policy did not stop the development and the successes of the non-Malays. Wow. Like, as far as I know, like, if we succeed, like, it is on our own.
Basically, there's no reason for you to have your Tuan Tanah entitlement, so stop acting like you deserve it.
Anyway, next we have some conspiracy theories from our good friend right here. The Malays did not ask for power, but were voted out by them. Point number 10. Every time they dominate the government, they give places and positions to non-Malays in the government. We value the contribution of the non-Malays to the advancement of the country, but their contributions have brought great returns to them.
I mean, of course, bro, do you expect people to work for free?
Point number 11. We accept the citizenship of the non-Malays, but not to the point that the country has been taken over and owned by citizens that still have strong ties with your original country. Point number 12. In Thailand, the Philippines, and Indonesia, migrants that receive citizenship no longer associate themselves with your original countries. Point number 13. The attitude of Malaysia is much more liberal than that of our neighbor countries. But liberalism does not mean that you are liberal until the country has been taken over by others. Final point. The young Malays need to think deeply before they accept that our country shall no longer be controlled by us. Wow. Tun, truly amazing. You are such a hero of your religion and race. I'm sure that all the young people will finally wake up. Tidak lagi lalai. They will, after reading this, come to accept the grand wisdom that you have to share with this entire country. Wow. If you thought that was kind of delusional right there, trust me, many people agree with you. But you know, I really have to wonder, right? Tun, are the children like this maybe because of you? Because of all the people that you ended up cultivating who are going around calling people who disagree with this idea right here, barwa, bangsa, tali, barut, pengkhianat bangsa, stuff like that. Even as you say things that a younger generation that can actually read for itself can tell are false. Like, the whole narrative is basically that, oh, the non-Malays came in, they're gonna destroy, displace, and get rid of the Malays. You know, Tun's been saying this for the past, I don't know how many years. You could say to yourself, he doesn't really believe in it. He's only here to create hatred. But like, I actually spoke to the man personally, and I know that this is actually something that he believes. That the Malays are weak, that other races are strong, and if he doesn't say something like this, then somehow they will really be taken over. Somehow or another, even after 99 years of life, Tun Dr. Mahathir somehow is still caught in his Malay dilemma idea, thinking that we are all so separate from one another, perhaps because he himself didn't experience certain things which are important for realizing that actually we are one country, and he just wants to carry on this narrative about how the non-Malays are going to destroy Malay unity. Wahai orang Melayu, bersatulah, bersepadulah, kalau lalai, maka hapuslah Melayu di dunia bumi ini. It's the same tired old story, and you know, I just have to wonder, right? Tun, have you considered that maybe the Malays read what people like you say and realize that it is false? But you cannot blame him, some of you might say. He is merely being a sage. He is merely advising the young. I mean, our friends in Singapore, like the late Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, who said, even if you are going to lower me into the grave and I feel that something is going wrong, I will get up. Now see, the thing about Mr. Lee is that he actually did go into the grave, which is unfortunate and sad. But Tun Dr. Mahathir, on the other hand, is the kind of person who, like a vengeful spirit, he remains on the surface of the earth for so long that there is no resolution to the so-called Malay problem that he thinks that he is going to resolve by indoctrinating the young generation. Well, I guess Tun Mahathir is going to live forever. Long live Tun Mahathir. But since we're talking about Lee Kuan Yew, what Tun Mahathir is doing is kind of like what Lee used to do, becoming like a literal Jeremiah, calling out the problems with the society, providing moral injunctions so that the young will end up improving, saving their world, and creating for themselves a country finally to call their own. You really have to ask yourself, right? Like, what exactly was created? If you think about this whole statement, it is part of his usual playbook. Prey on the Malays' insecurities, tell them that they cannot achieve anything, that they will be overrun, so that they will divide from the rest of people and somehow end up fighting for their own interests and just end up pushing away every other race. You would think to yourself that this is already old, we're already past that, but no, like this man is 99 years old, going on 100, and this old strategy is still the strategy du jour. You literally said that you stopped believing in the Malay dilemma back in 1997, but now you are living it out every single day as you make all these kinds of statements about URA, Melayu kena tindas, hiduplah bangsaku, and I don't know, man. Why do you even need to do that? Does it really matter which ethnic group specifically rules this country when at the end of the day, you have like tariffs, trade war, you have literal war going on outside of our borders, and still the thing that you decide to do is to make us fight with one another, from Malays to Chinese to Indians, everywhere, even if it doesn't make sense. And here I will quote the Singaporean Prime Minister.
It's not about PAP versus the opposition,
but it's about Singapore against the world. Why can't Malaysia be like that? The thing that I find most fascinating here is Tun's fear of meritocracy. It's like, when we talk about meritocracy, we're not talking about like, oh, they have to be Chinese. We're not talking about how like, oh, they have to be Malay or Indian. We're talking about who are the best people in our society to run this project that you call Malaysia, to bring it forward regardless of race, so that at some point later on, then your grandchildren's grandchildren, your chuchu punya chuchu can all hang out together in this place that you once built. You know, Tun, like, you built the Petronas Twin Towers for us, the Sepang Circuit, and so many other things along the way. But this status and your pattern of thinking right here will not be one of the good parts of your legacy. The young Malays are not stupid. They are now mature, they are educated, they can read, they can see the way that you are thinking about the Malay community and also about the other communities out there. I would not be surprised if they read your status and they immediately start supporting meritocracy even more because of what you've chosen to say. So yeah, I mean, like, good job on you for trying to advise the next generation, I guess. But yeah, when I look at Tun Mahathir these days, I just can't help but think that like he is just not a happy person, and it's very unfortunate to watch him go along this path in his 99th year, moving towards 100, and just casually talking about all of these silly race-related things when we have much more important problems at hand to deal with. You might think that somehow or another you're helping members of your race by voicing this out, but as far as I can see, Tun, like the way that you're doing it, it's like you're just casually pulling people away from their own race and towards the picture of multiracialism. If only you were just out there playing with your grandchildren all day instead of just casually fighting day in and day out, which by the way you will have to with the whole Batu Putih thing, but if you were to just like casually stop for a while and just stop fighting, stop acting like somehow you need to be a Jeremiah, I feel like you would just be a much happier person. I'm sure that you have good intentions, but it is said, and I think you should realize that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. We would have thought that somehow after you lost your Langkawi deposit and everything else right here, you would have stopped. What you said is in no way going to help to unite people, unless of course you're trying to unite them in thinking that you have become too old to function and that you may have missed your medicine schedules. And it's not just me who's saying this, like just look at the comments down on your Facebook page and you will see how everybody thinks of you right here. When I think about this, I can't help but just think of something that another Prime Minister said in writing to Mr. Lee Kuan Yew 12 years after his final speech in Parliament, saying, "Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, the friend who had worked so hard to found Malaysia and even harder to break it up. Kindest regards, Tunku Abdul Rahman, 26th of May, 1977. You know, I'm gonna paraphrase that right now. I'm gonna say to Tun Dr. Mahathir, the friend who tried so hard to save the Malays and even harder to break them up. Because this is you as a national leader intentionally deciding to divide the population of Malaysia long after you were first Prime Minister for 22 years and long after you became Prime Minister again, the oldest in the world, and then later resigned out of nowhere. But at the same time, Tun, I should congratulate you. Because you see, the fact that you can see all of these people of every single race and religion, whether Chinese, Indian, or Malay for that example, pointing out that what you're saying here is frankly just nonsense, is a testament to the fact that somehow or another, what you said and what you believe ended up leading to a Malaysia that is mature enough to reject you. Congratulations to Dr. Mahathir, you have built a wonderful legacy. It is really fascinating that you've chosen to say this right here. And to you, the Anak Muda Melayu who is watching this for the first time, keep up the spirit that made Tun write this status. We are Malaysia, we are one country, and all of us are Malaysians regardless of race, language, or religion. Towards Malaysia for all Malaysians. Alright, that's all I have to say about that, and bye.